There is a lot of crap on that desk. Our last session ended with our group reviving Harmon and making camp outside of the Shrine of Morgan. Zelda returned from invading the druid's privacy without much to say for it. She didn't really find anything. And the group settles down for a long rest after a hard day. Before bed, Noct nods towards the flocks of ravens around the grove, having that feeling that they were maybe sent by Morgan to watch over the druid, and he kind of gives a nod to that deity, thanking her for helping in reviving their friend Harmon. Bows to them before he just settles down to watch over camp. During his watch, the ravens go eerily quiet. There's thousands of them in the trees. Then he sees a figure walk out of the forest. The woman has this long feather cloak on, clawed talons for hands, and he watches as spiders crawl all over her skin. She nods towards Noct, and he sees these reddish, glowing eyes. But there's not just one or two of them, there are 8 different eyes. The figure then moves over to Zelda's body, then says, "It's hard to unite a land when you cannot work with those you say that you trust." And she puts out her hand over Zelda's body, and a spider crawls across it and drops from her fingertips, landing on Zelda and climbing up into Zelda's nose. Zelda shudders slightly, but doesn't wake. The goddess Morgan looks to Noct then and smiles. Perhaps she will learn to be more willing to work with you now. Then she moves to leave, but stops over our sleeping barbarian friend. She looks back at Noct and says, "Names are such an interesting thing. To share one could bring power or misfortune." She plucks a raven feather from her cloak and drops it next to Morgan's axe. A spider quickly spins this silver thread around both the hilt of her weapon as well as the feather itself, attaching it like a charm to her axe. With that, Morgan steps into the woods and vanishes. The watch continues uneventfully despite poor rolls for the rest of the party. When they wake, they realize that Harmon is gone. His sleeping bag is stuffed full of leaves and branches, and he has left the party funds and items as well as a note in the sleeping bag. The note reads, "Drakkenheim is too beautiful at night. I must go explore it." Harmon is good about hiding his trail, so despite trying, Delilah cannot find anything that leads directly to him. Noct also tells them about their strange visitor last night, and he mentions it to Zelda. Zelda realizes that her skin feels like it's just crawling with bugs and spiders, and she just can't shake that feeling. They decide to make their way into camp to finish their quest for the scepter. Delilah is hopeful that she will see some sort of clue that Harmon went this way, but finds nothing as they make their trek. I cannot remember if they had an encounter on the way in, but I feel like they didn't. This is now like a month and a half after. So don't think they did. I'm sorry, I'm so behind. They arrived at the chapel and see a horse is tethered there still. Zelda tries to beat Morgan to investigate what the horse has. She rolls with a -2 as she feels this creepy, crawly sensation on her skin. And Morgan, a bit salty, decides to, instead of investigate, slap the horse's rear, making the horse buck. Zelda doesn't get kicked, luckily, but the pack that the horse was carrying does fall and subsequently gets trampled, shattering some sort of glass bottle that was inside. Noct notices that the garden itself looks a little bit more sparse, but he can't place how. The group then moves on, looking for signs of anyone. They stop in the crypt where the Mephits are, and to their surprise, the Rat King's head, their offering that Harmon left here, is gone. They had left that there as payment so that the Mephits would agree to let them go find gems for them. Instead, the Mephits are now happily tossing a little bit of delirium back and forth. They say that their other strange friend who left the head came back for it, that he left them this shiny as payment. Delilah is now sure that Harmon is never coming back. they decide to continue down to the tomb. They see that a bench from the crematory garden is now on its side beneath the door going down into the crypts, creating a small gap that they can crawl beneath. They have the immovable rod, however, so they put it into the mechanism and open the door. They go downstairs and make their way towards Saint Brenna's tomb. They see another bench on its side, also creating a gap. However, the door is open because of the immovable rod, and they see that Saint Brenna is up and moving again. It seems that the rain 2 nights ago has covered the floor again with water. But worse now, they see that all of those followers of the falling fire they had met the day before are also here, dead and turned into haze husks. A fight ensues. This time, the group focuses fire on the mummy, which kills her quickly. Zelda has a hard time hitting anything because she keeps getting distracted by these crawling spiders on her skin that she just can't find. The exploding haze husks threaten to give them contamination, but pretty much everyone succeeds on their saves. Once everything is defeated, Ik decides to collect some of the dust of the followers, while Noct does his best to reset the tomb of Saint Brenna. This time, with Ik's help, he finds a way to divert the dripping water so that if it does rain again, it will not land on the candles and disrupt the ritual. Morgan sets about opening the door to the north of the chamber. She tries what the followers of the falling fire were trying and tries to lift the door. She does raise it with a successful strength check. Delilah decides that they should just leave the benches where they are, and she decides to go upstairs and grab the immovable rod. She does so and climbs back underneath those doors back to this northern door. As Morgan lifts it up, she slams the immovable rod underneath the door and clicks the button, holding the door in place with the immovable rod. Inside, they find a pile of charred wood and a statue of Saint Virtruvio, flanked by 2 unlit candles. In his hands lays the scepter. They spent a long time talking about what they think they need to do, but not doing anything, and nobody touches the scepter. Noct decides to light the 2 candles. Nothing happens. He has Zelda light the pyre. Nothing happens. Finally, Noct touches the scepter, and in his head he hears, "Darkness leaves a heavy burden on the heart. The light brings freedom from the weight of sin. If you should take up my scepter, it is not enough to merely bear the light. You must illuminate yourself." Morgan offers to set him on fire. She also tries to pick up the scepter, but it doesn't budge. It's just so heavy. Noct declines the offer to be set on fire. Instead, he kneels before the statue and offers a prayer. Suddenly, he is illuminated in a dull glow. He lifts up the scepter and finds that it is much lighter. He then spends a good bit of time to attune to it while everyone else is taking a short rest. The group goes to leave, and as they step out into the air of the city, they hear, "That white-haired, beefy lady was here? You sure? Well, they ain't been back to town since, so they gotta be here, right? Hopefully not dead, because we get less reward that way." They finally run into the rival group that I've been planning for like 16 billion sessions. The battle is fierce. A few of the characters getting knocked out. Zelda does very poorly for the start of the battle. She starts trying to move off on her own, and those spiders crawling around her skin keep making her miss. Finally, she starts working together with the rest of the team, and her aiming suddenly gets better. She starts aiming her spells at foes her friends suggest, and the spider feeling subsides. All of the party get slightly irritated at this mockery of a force. They are all alternate versions of them. A tiefling in the back apologizes for having to fight them, saying, "When I'm queen, such fighting will be meaningless." Another druid-type character slams some delirium into the ground for her spellcasting, instantly becoming Delilah's target. Lily, her name is Lily, and she is the only member of the rival party to fall, but when she does, the rest of the rival party decides to retreat. They were not paid enough to let one of their party members die. Morris, their barbarian, grabs Lily's unconscious form to take with them. They retreat, and the party lets them, as they are pretty beat from the day. As they go, they say the Jackal isn't paying them enough for this, and the rest of the group turns towards Morgan. Who's the Jackal? And why were they after her? Hey, don't forget that if you are loving this kind of content, the best way to support me is through Patreon. You could join the Patreon here. It's $3 a month and you can get everything without ads. You can also get other behind the scenes, special live streams. You can also join the YouTube members stuff instead. It gives you the same rewards. I'm also releasing a magazine in the next few weeks and that will be all on there as well. So, you know, go support me on Patreon. Here's what I could have done better. I don't have notes on this session, and it was a while ago. But I do remember one thing. I felt like Noct let Morgan, the goddess, into camp too easily. And I could have been because I brainstormed how to curse Zelda with him before the session, and he knew that she wouldn't cause harm per se to the party. But it is what it is. It felt a little bit railroady, but it wasn't really because he didn't offer anything up either, you know? So he had an opportunity. The curse thing, I have no idea if it's gonna work. Essentially, the spiders crawling on her skin, that is because the goddess Morgan has cursed Zelda, and every time that I feel like she is actively, the light, anytime that I feel like Zelda is actively working against the party members, she's going to get a -1 up to a -2 on all her ability checks and saving throws. And anytime she works with everyone, she will get a +1, max +2 to her ability checks and saving throws. Don't know if she's actually going to learn anything. I don't think she learned anything this session about that. And other party members were even trying to point it out to her. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll still work, but we'll see how it goes in the future. I did see this thing that I wanted to implement, but can't. I saw it on Reddit. It's a house rule that was like, anytime you interrupt the DM, they roll on essentially a magic table, and like a wild magic surge table, and that happens. Either way, I can't do that. 1, I get interrupted a lot. 2, they wouldn't even hear me rolling, and they would never learn anything. So honestly, the interrupting me is one thing. It's the talking while I'm talking that gets me. But I'm really not sure what to do about that. It happens mostly when like Ache is trying to help Zelda or trying to get her to do something else, or I don't know, because most of the time I'm giving someone the result of their roll or explaining the situation at large, and he's talking to her. And I can't always focus on both of those at the same time. That is one thing that doesn't happen as much on online games, and because if you talk over each other, nobody hears anything. So you have to give each other space. The other thing I know I forgot to introduce the inspiration rule this time like I wanted to, but I did do it the next session and they liked it. I also introduced a new potion rule with everyone's consensus. Instead of having just the bonus action to drink a potion, which I still have in place, of course, it's an action to feed the potion to somebody else, but if you use an action to take the potion yourself, instead of a bonus action, you will get the full hit dice. We kind of already do the brutal critical rule, so I thought that this would complement that well. For session prep, I had so much more to prepare since I expected them to make it to Camp Dawn and then to Emberwood, so I didn't really have to do much prep. I really just reviewed my notes from before, especially about Camp Dawn and Emberwood. I had planned on having them level up at Camp Dawn, so I did give them a heads up. But I had kind of hoped that they would at least do that RP part at the end of this session, and it didn't happen, and that's fine. So yeah, that was that one, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.